in the words I say. Peace in the world I make. God, in every breath I take. Joy in my day. Joy in my day. Love in the words I say. Peace in the world I make. God, in every breath I take. Joy in my day. Joy in my day. We are lifted up. We are lifted up. We are lifted up higher. We are lifted up. We are lifted up. We are lifted up higher. Love in the words we say. Peace in the world we make. God, in every breath we take. Joy in our day. Joy in our day. Oh, love in the words we say. Peace in the world we make. God, in every breath we take. Joy in our day. Joy in our day. God, in every breath we take. Joy in our day. We are lifted up. We are lifted up. We are lifted up higher. We are lifted up. We are lifted up. We are lifted up higher. We are lifted up. We are lifted up. We are lifted up higher.
We give thanks for the one perfect life that flows through all of creation. That life is God, and that life belongs to each and every one of us in this space today. God is perfect, whole, and complete in form and substance, and we are as well by divine design, made from a power that makes things out of itself and becomes what it loves. And we're so pleased to come together to celebrate our oneness and to look at possibilities by being connected to that wondrous and unlimited flow that moves through us. As young Dr. David's message just tells us about all that is open and available to us. We know that Spirit speaks through him mightily. And we are so blessed to be able to hear that. We're so blessed to be able to come together and celebrate our oneness here yet again. I know that everything that takes place here this afternoon will be absolutely perfect in every way, and give thanks for all of the beautiful expressions of the divine in this space with me here now. And for all of those within the sound of my voice, all who will hear this message thereafter, I give thanks for everyone here in Aurora, in the state of Colorado, in the United States, on planet Earth, and in the universe everywhere. And release these words in the divine law where they're already done in that universal mind. I let this go, I let it be. Together we affirm, and so it is. And it's very hard to find material from our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes, because he only wrote one or two things here or there. I was able to find some, though. E for effort, huh? Our first words of inspiration from Dr. Holmes say that happiness must be based on a sense of inward security, a sense of belonging to life and to each other, a desire to give, to be kind and compassionate, and to be able to put ourselves in the other person's position. Our second quote says, if we are fulfilling ourselves today and filling the present with happiness and the highest sense of wholeness we can entertain, we are doing well. And our third quote says, if one is dealing with a principle which can instantly change any condition to a more desirable one, why should not any situation instantly be met?
Good afternoon and welcome to Dawn. I'm Reverend Dr. David Goldberg, and it's my honor to be with you in this extraordinary community where we are radically inclusive. We honor all people, all faith traditions, all relational orientations, and all paths to the divine. And what that means, my friends, is that we honor you. So thank you for honoring us with your presence. Oh my goodness, happy first week of spring. It's not the first day of spring anymore, right? Rick and I were out at 7:30 last night, and the sun was just starting to set, and we're like, wait, what? And we're still confused, and our dog is confused, and I have to say that I hope we don't have to pay for it too severely, but I'm kind of enjoying the weather. And as I stand here preparing to talk about if you want to change the world, do it, right? I have to share with you that I'm feeling a little tender. And before I get into that part of my talk, I wanted to acknowledge the presence of two extraordinary beings this afternoon with us, Bill and Mary. And we hold your bruised hearts with the passing of your beloved brother Paul. So thank you for being with us, and please, whatever we can do, we are here to support you. And having said that, for the first time, I did a memorial service this morning before coming to be with our community. And this was for the sister of a dear friend of mine. Reese is my friend's name, and we were in Pratt class together for 2 years, a long time ago. And she lost her two-year-old nephew 7 years ago, and this is her sister who had that nephew. So she's had some significant losses. And as I was thinking about how that reflects on our theme today about happiness and goodness, my friend, her name is Lori Reese, and she prefers to go by her last name, Reese. And my friend Reese is one of those inherently happy people. So showed up at this memorial today. The chapel is packed, Haran and McConaty, right down the street here. And I'm watching my friend, and I'm watching her support her partner and her partner's daughter, who is 9.5 months pregnant. And I'm watching her support her mother, and I'm watching her support her brother-in-law, all the time while grieving herself. And what a beautiful metaphor for us. And that we get to hold that tension of the opposites, right? We get to honor that extraordinary being who left us much too early at 42, and we still get to honor our own grief. We are not monochromatic in that regard. We can handle more than one thing at a time. For me, the jury is still out on multitasking. However, I do believe that we can feel multiple emotions at the same time. So our contemplative thought for today is, what becomes possible when we imagine the pursuit of happiness as a shared spiritual practice? So what I invite you into, I'm a minister with a microphone, and I have a lot more words today. And if you hear nothing else, please hear this. What if happiness is our natural state? So that is the frame that I teased out the talk and what I wanted to share with you today. What becomes possible when we imagine the pursuit of happiness as a shared spiritual practice? So we're going to explore how joy, equity, and compassion can transform not just our own lives, but the collective spirit that we share, that we all feed into, that we're all a part of. As we know, change begins within, and from that love within, the world reshapes itself. So what we know then, as Russ so beautifully alluded, Ernest Holmes was rather prolific, and as you've heard me say on more than one occasion, for me, a little obtuse at times, a little tough to penetrate, but I do love him and I do love the writing. And what we know is at the center of our being is a divine person, a unique incarnation of God. If I believe, and I do, that the one power, the one presence who created me continues to dwell in me and express as me, therefore I am God in expression, as is every sentient being on the planet. So this is the source of all real inspiration, here and here alone at the center of our being. We all have direct access to that infinite presence. Again, I'm so honored to be with you and share some of my thoughts and ideas from time to time. And the truth of the matter is, you don't need me. You have access to the divine. You have access to the wisdom of the universe. And it's an honor to be here as we tap into that with what it means for each one of us individually and what that looks like for us collectively. So in that infinite presence, there could be no more beautiful thought than that the divine spirit itself, infinite as it is, also lives within us, right? That is what we know to be true. And with this acceptance of God, there must come an acceptance of the real self, that which blossoms in our relations with others and finds fruit in its own action. Sorry, that was a quote from Living the Science of Mind. So the Science of Mind perspective then, within that New Thought umbrella, is happiness must be based on an inward sense of security, a sense of belonging to life and to each other, a desire to give, a desire to be kind and compassionate, and to be able to put ourselves in the other person's perspective or the other person's position. And I would also offer that we need and we must be able to put ourselves first. Interesting from a spiritual perspective. It's better to give than to receive, blah, blah, blah. I get that. And again, if I believe that God is in me and continues to dwell in me and express as me, when I put myself first, I'm putting God first. And so this is not from a place of ego. This is not from a place of narcissism. If you're not going to put yourself first, how can you expect anybody else to do that, right? So that's part of the invitation. So what if changing the world isn't about force, it isn't about control, but it's about transforming thoughts and beliefs and consciousness so deeply that our outer actions are shared systems and they naturally shift when we lean into a collective pursuit of happiness and inward security. We're very fond of saying in this teaching, change your thinking, change your life, right? What we think about, we bring about. We all know the bumper stickers. But what if nothing is about, forgive me. What if we used this change in our thinking, in our vivid imaginations, in the pursuit of happiness, in the ongoing opportunity to see the divine in each other? What if we choose to live the concept of namaste? The divinity in me blesses and recognizes the divinity in you. What if believing that there is nothing to changing the world is the only thing that's keeping us from changing the world? So I love synchronicity. I don't believe that there are mistakes. I believe that everything happens for a reason. So one of these moments for me, I have a friend coming into town for a big high school reunion, and she has engaged the services of my beloved, and Rick is going to do readings at their big high school reunion. And so she's coming to town, and I started thinking about high school days a little bit. And one of the things that came up for me is the first musical I did when I was in high school. And that musical was Guys and Dolls. And I should have known then that I was going to step into a ministerial calling when there's a Broadway musical where a whole lot of the action takes place in the Save a Soul mission. So, Rick is a huge musical theater fan, and I said, what if we watch Guys and Dolls? So today, my friends, we're going to look at happiness through the metaphysical lens of the Broadway musical Guys and Dolls. There is something wonderful disarming about the idea that a musical comedy from the 50s might hold a blueprint for changing the world. Yet in Guys and Dolls, starring a 39-year-old Frank Sinatra and a 31-year-old Marlon Brando, we're invited into a world where gamblers, missionaries, showgirls, and dreamers all collide and somehow transform that into happiness, not through force, not through argument, but through relationship, imagination, and a willingness to see something more in one another than what appears on the surface. And isn't that the question we're holding today? What if changing the world isn't about overpowering it, but about re-seeing it? What if the shift we long for begins not out there, but in here, in consciousness, in imagination, in the quiet decision to believe that something better is possible? Gene Wilder once sang, "Want to change the world? There's nothing to it." And that line can sound almost naive until we pair it with what Ernest Holmes teaches, that the center of our being is a creative power capable of shaping reality itself. What if nothing to it doesn't mean easy, but that the barrier is thinner than we think? What if the only thing standing between the world we have and the world we long for is our willingness to imagine it, to claim it, and to live from it? So that's what we're exploring today. The possibility through story, through spirit, and yes, through a little bit of Broadway wisdom. So the first thing I want to invite you into is the thought that imagination as a tool for collective liberation. Come on, David, talk about obtuse. Imagination is a tool for collective liberation. In Guys and Dolls, imagination is not decorative, it's catalytic. The entire narrative pivots on a wager that seems absurd on the surface, that Sky Masterson, played by Marlon Brando, bets he can take the straight-laced Sarah Brown to Havana, Cuba. Yet what unfolds is not just a romantic arc, but the transformation of identity through expanded possibility. Sky begins as a man defined by chance, probability, and detachment, although a strong grounding in the Bible. But through Sarah and through the imaginative leap of seeing himself as more than a gambler. He becomes someone capable of commitment, of compassion, and of purpose. So imagination here is the bridge between who he has been and who he might become. It mirrors what we're talking about precisely. If we can envision a different way of being, we initiate the conditions for it to emerge, right? Seed, soil, plant. Nathan Detroit's storyline, the character played by Sinatra, offers a collective dimension of the same principle. He's trapped in this endless cycle, running a floating crap game, dodging authority, delaying commitment to Adelaide, celebrating the 14th anniversary of their engagement. His world is defined by limitation. No place for the game, no place to move forward, no real growth. It is only when the imaginative field shifts, when the gamblers themselves are invited into a different possibility through the Save a Soul mission, that transformation begins. So the prayer scene in particular is a powerful metaphor for collective liberation. Hardened gamblers momentarily step into a new identity. They imagine themselves as something other than what they have always been. And in that imaginative act, something softens, something opens. This is not escapism, it is rehearsal for a different reality. We know that when imagination becomes shared, it begins to reshape culture itself. The second point I want to invite you into is that happiness as a birthright and a communal responsibility. Happiness as a communal responsibility. The character of Adelaide, the lead singer dancer in the Hot Box Review, her character is one of the clearest embodiments of the tension between personal happiness and systemic delay. Her longing is simple. She wants to be married. She wants to have stability, to live a life of emotional security. And yet she exists in a system, namely Nathan's world, that continually defers her happiness. Her famous soliloquy song, Adelaide's Lament, humorously frames psychosomatic illness. But underneath the comedy is a deeper truth. When happiness is withheld, it manifests as dis-ease. Adelaide's story reflects our assertion that happiness is not merely an individual pursuit, but something shaped by relational and structural conditions. Nathan's inability to commit is not just his issue. It affects her well-being. Happiness, therefore, becomes a shared responsibility. At the same time, the mission, led by Sarah Brown, introduces the idea that happiness must extend beyond the self to the collective. Initially, Sarah's approach is rigid, focused on saving others from the outside, saving people from the devil, saving the sinners. But through her journey with Sky, she begins to understand that joy, connection, and compassion are not oppositional to spirituality. They are indeed its expression. The gamblers are not transformed through coercion, but through relationship, humor, and shared humanity. In this way, the film subtly reframes happiness as something that is co-created. It is not enough for Sarah to be right or for Sky to be free. They must meet in a space where both can flourish. This aligns directly with what we're talking about. A world where happiness is truly a birthright requires participation, empathy, and a willingness to dismantle the patterns that isolate us from one another. Thirdly, I'd like to invite you to consider that seeing God in each other is the foundation of equity. The central relational dynamic between Sky and Sarah is, at its core, a lesson in sacred recognition. They begin as opposites. He, the worldly gambler, she, the principled reformer. Each initially sees the other through the lens of judgment. But as their relationship unfolds, something shifts. They begin to see beyond roles and into essence. Sky recognizes Sarah's humanity beyond her rigidity. Sarah sees Sky's goodness beyond his reputation. This is precisely the movement that Holmes invites, seeing the divine in each other, not erasing difference, but honoring the deeper unity beneath it. Their love story becomes a microcosm of equity. When we truly see one another, barriers dissolve. And the culminating moment with the gamblers joining the mission reinforces this principle on a broader scale. These men are men who society might dismiss, rough, flawed, morally ambiguous at best. And yet, when they are met not as problems, but as people, something profound occurs. They show up, they participate, they belong. So equity then, in this context, is not imposed. It emerges naturally when dignity is extended. The film suggests that transformation doesn't come from hierarchy or moral superiority, but from recognition. When we see God in each other, we create conditions where everyone is included in the circle of worthiness. Justice, then, is no longer abstract. It becomes relational, lived, and immediate. So, my friends, when we imagine the pursuit of happiness as a shared spiritual practice, we tap into the truth that transcends personal ambition. Our joy is intertwined. Holmes reminds us that equity, peace, and mutual happiness flow naturally when we truly see God in each other. Change doesn't require force. It begins with a shift in consciousness. It's nurtured by imagination, compassion, and the courage to envision more. By recognizing happiness as both a birthright and a responsibility, we aligned with the infinite wholeness that celebrates our uniqueness while binding us in unity. So it's in this space, then, that the world changes, not through power over, but through love within. And from that love, we build systems, relationships, and communities where everyone can thrive. His Holiness the Dalai Lama puts it much more succinctly. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. So what does that look like for us here at New Dawn? 3 things that we do in that regard. We practice happiness as a collective responsibility. New Dawn nurtures an environment where personal joy and communal well-being are seen as interconnected. We actively support one another's flourishing through compassionate care, shared celebration, and mutual encouragement. We engage imagination as spiritual work, as evidenced by our workshop this afternoon. Through visioning, creative expression, and inspired dialogue, we encourage members to imagine new possibilities, not only for themselves, but for society, knowing that imagination is the first step toward transformation. And finally, we see the divine in one another. With our new congregational song beautifully played by Ken once again today, "You are the face of God." How powerful is that? You are the face of God. And our commitment to equity, inclusivity, and justice reflects our spiritual conviction that every person is a unique expression of the infinite, worthy of dignity, safety, and yes, happiness. If you would please join me in prayer. Practitioner prayer partners, please stand. There is one infinite presence at the center of all life. It is creative, compassionate, intelligent, and lives at the center of our being. We are not separate from this divine source. We are its expression, its imagination, its love in motion. We affirm that happiness is not a privilege. It is a birthright rooted in belonging. And belonging is woven into the fabric of existence itself. So we commit to changing the world by changing the consciousness from which we live. We allow imagination to stretch beyond limitation. We allow compassion to guide our decisions. We allow equity to inform our actions. May we see the divine in one another. May we dismantle walls with understanding. May our joy become communal. May our healing become collective. From love within, systems shift. From compassion embodied, justice grows. From imagination held consistently, reality reshapes itself. We trust that as we transform our thinking, life transforms our world. And in gratitude for this shared pursuit of happiness, we release, we let go, we allow it to be. And we anchor this together by saying, and so it is, and so I am, and so we are.
You turn the news on, you get your blues on from all the negativity. It's hard to wrap yourself around what's going down on TV. Or you can stress, or second guess, or you can think about it way too hard, or you can move the conversation from your head to your heart. Sometimes it's a matter of just letting go and holding on to the one thing we know. Love wins, that's where the circle of life begins. It's the one simple lesson we're learning again and again. Love wins. We all matter, it doesn't matter if we're on one side or the other, as long as we find a way to get along with one another. We can agree to disagree, or maybe to even realize that you can see another point of view when you look through someone else's eyes. Sometimes it's as easy as just letting go, holding on to the one thing we know. Sing it. Love wins, that's where the circle of life begins. It's the one simple lesson we're learning again and again. Love wins whenever you give it a chance. It is the one that everyone has to give a better world for us all. That's where the circle of life begins. It's the one simple lesson we're learning again and again. Love wins, that's where it all begins. Love wins, we learn it again and again. Love love is a lesson.